In DC, for DC. DC Radio, 96.3 HD4 and DCRadio.gov.
This week on the latest episode of The Big Show, the new Netflix film Spencer Confidential drops, and the man called Winston Duke will stop by to talk about what it was like playing a man called Hawk. Also, the DC Filmmaker of the Month Alumnus Charneise Fox returns as we talk to her and the producers of the local romantic dramedy, Love.com. Plus, we'll have movie news and reviews, including Wendy, Onward, The Banker, and Spencer Confidential, all on this edition of Keeping It Real with FilmGordon. Let's go.
Experience life through the eyes of a true film addict. Keeping it real with FilmGordon.
All right, and welcome to a jam-packed 100th episode here at DC Radio of Keeping It Real with FilmGordon. Last week, we celebrated 400 episodes of this show's history over the course of the first 11 years. Today, the 100th show in our comfortable studio home here in Northeast DC. Charles Kirkland is joining me. What's going on, brother?
Hey, it's good. Oh, hey.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That'll teach you how to do something crazy on there. Hey, it's good to hear your voice, though. Also, coming up a little later on in the show, we've got reviews of 4 films today. It's a lot of activity going on. Plus, Charneise Fox, who's a former DC Filmmaker of the Month, is going to stop by. She's got a new film on Netflix that's trending, Love.com, filmed here in DC. So we'll talk to her. And M'Baku returns. Winston Duke.
He's done so many things
since then.
Winston
Duke set out with our own Wilson Morales. We're going to play that interview a little later on as they're rebooting Spencer for Hire. It is now called Spencer Confidential. So, yeah, you guys want to listen to all that stuff. And we'll have all that and more. We'll have Wilson himself coming up momentarily. But before we get started, as I said, it is the 100th episode here in this room, in this studio. Keeping it real with FilmGordon.
Shane, what happened to the cake?
Man, I ain't get a cake. I mean, they had some hand sanitizer out there. I mean, I got that. I mean, because, you know, we are in it. And it's not funny because people are losing lives out there. Protect yourself. And as I was told in concert when I saw Liv Warfield earlier this week, wash your hands. Wash your hands. So during the show, I'll be stopping in the middle of the interviews going, wash your hands. Wash your hands. So a lot of stuff going on. Charles, what were you about to say?
I was going to say, we wouldn't have this problem if people was washing their hands in the first place. But moving on.
Yeah, I wish you could see the face of producer Shane Lewis when Wilson just reiterated. I mean, not Wilson, when Charles reiterated what I just said previously. But
I know that's why I didn't really want to say it, but you brought me in to say it anyway, you know. Oh, well.
Also, we're going to get off the air tonight, and we are headed over to the new African Film Festival, which is in full swing for the next 2 weeks. There is no rest for the weary. And they better be lucky that you actually got your festival in, because there's stuff that's getting canceled. And as we talk about that, let's go to New York and talk to Wilson Morales. Wilson, welcome to the show.
It's good to be on. You know, obviously, we're still maintaining. You know, New York is a city that never sleeps.
It is a city that never sleeps. And you're supposed to be going to South by Southwest. Am I correct?
Not just sure yet. You know, everybody's canceling now.
Well, I mean, I'm not making fun of it. I mean, Netflix, Amazon, Facebook, Twitter, among others, have basically said, we out. We not bringing stuff down there. I'm very concerned about festivals. In a moment as well, Wilson, we'll talk about the decision earlier this week of No Time to Die being moved into the fall. And there are other things that I think are going to be moved as well. So let's talk first about South by Southwest. You are accredited and you still are thinking about going, not going, taking your chances, rolling the dice?
Well, as it is right now, you know, in the last few days, obviously a lot of studios have pulled out. Netflix just pulled out. They're bringing some films there. You know, films are still going to play as far as I know, you know, so it's a matter of like, okay, do I, a lot of times you go out there, not just for the films, because you want to go to panels, you want to hear Q&As after the film is being shown and so forth. Otherwise, it's a little weird just to go down there just to see films. Right. We do it at, you're at Sundance, you see the movie, you hear Q&As, there are panels, there are things to do. So the films are still going to be played out. Not everybody's pulled out yet. Paramount is still in, Universal's still in, so like we still have days before. So, the jury's still out. I still may be down there, and I think I'm planning to still be down there. It's a matter of just how many days will I be down there for.
Yeah, man, it's too early to tell, man. I saw an email this morning that something came through in the trades about the Cannes Film Festival, because there's a lot of concerns in France. And Cannes, I think, is in 2 months. So we're talking about in May. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I know Tribeca. I haven't heard anything from Tribeca, but I am monitoring all these festivals because we have a festival of our own. So I am very heightened to not necessarily what's going on as it relates to the reality, but I think Wilson and I had a conversation about this earlier this week. It's about the perception of a thing. Right. So, Wilson, the decision from MGM to push back No Time to Die, on the surface, it makes sense, man. The film, I'll let you tell a story. Why does that make sense for them to do that, for that film?
Well, there's only been a few films that can probably generate $1 billion. And everybody knows in order for you to cross $1 billion, you need China. So China is responsible for a good portion of your overseas take. And James Bond is a worldwide film. It's not a film that just does well overseas. People look forward to seeing James Bond. And from what I read earlier today, it's easier to lose $30 million by postponing it than losing a potential $3 to $5 million. So that's an easy call, especially if China's not going to release any of the theaters for people to see the movie. You just can't bank on what you can make domestically. And this is a time period where everybody's kind of just staying at home to see how these things are going to play out. Next on the clock is Fast and the Furious. That's another movie, considering the last 3 films have made over $1 billion. The last film itself made $2.4 billion. So they're on the clock. I'm sure everybody's looking to see, okay, how far is this going to go and so forth. Like, so far, me personally, what I'm hearing are, one case here, one case there. I'm not hearing a group of people from the same plane, restaurant. You're just getting different cases all over the place.
All right, so one more thing for audiences at home who really aren't following what we're talking about. Explain the ramifications of what it will mean in the fall if, say, 2 or 3 of these high profile movies are moved into that time period with the slate that's already there that the studios are putting together.
It really doesn't really make a big difference. MGM is releasing James Bond. They don't have a lot of films on their slate. So it's not like it's a Warner Brothers production where Warner Brothers literally have their year rounded out. And, right. They would have to worry about which of their other films is going to be affected. MGM doesn't have another film, so they don't have to worry about it. The other studios have to worry about MGM because now if James Bond falls within their time frame of a big release, it's going to cut into their potential grosses. So James Bond is going to do very well. Whose week is it going to cut into? Will it be? I don't remember the date, but it's going to cut into
November 25th.
So that's that Thanksgiving weekend time and. Granted, hopefully the 8th, if the spring season is going to be a bust at the box office, the fall season is going to be tremendously well.
Yeah, man. It all bears watching, man. And like I said, I think that it's still too early to tell. And as I said, coming on the air earlier this week, the state of Maryland now has had 3 new cases, and they're having Governor Hogan declared a state of emergency. And I know there's some cases in New York. So it is slowly matriculating around the United States. And for us, we're only speaking about it because it impacts our livelihood, which is the film industry. So I think that's a part of why we're having constant conversation about this, and we'll continue to monitor this. So in addition to that, Wilson, man, what other news of note is going on now as we have now hit early March and we're in the last month of the first quarter of 2020?
Well, right now, you're getting obviously films that are coming out, some big, some small, mostly small when you think of it. Obviously, you have the Disney film Onward is going to be out right now. As you mentioned it earlier, Spencer Confidential is now playing on Netflix. So you have choices. You're also getting a lot of stories and news regarding casting news because it's pilot season for TV. So you never know which one of your film favorite is going to now move on to the TV world. The Banker's now on theaters. That should have come out last, but it's now being released. So we're starting to get a lot more stories out there, but nothing big because everybody's paying attention to what's going on around the world, so which is a good thing that you don't really have a lot of big releases, because you're only talking James Bond and Fast and the Furious, but I think some of the smaller films can benefit. But then again, if no one's coming outside, the ones that are going to benefit are the streaming services because everybody's going to be watching those movies there.
Man, and right on cue, boy, you talked about Spencer Confidential. You look at Netflix slate. Netflix, they're going to do quite well. People are staying home, man. It's like, what you got for us, Netflix? Oh, I got this, I got that. So it's like I said, man, it all bears watching, and I almost think we sound in some points like a broken record. But there's really, we don't have anything to report until we have something to report. So I'm monitoring the trades. I'm looking at, everything that's coming out. This is being postponed. I'm seeing conventions and, different festivals that are being massively affected, man, because studios are just not wanting to send people or fly people into these areas now. So, bruv, you're going to go to South by Southwest next week. You be careful down there, man. That's all I can tell you.
Hey, hopefully every day is something new. Every hour, about the hour, we're hearing something new. So either you're going to walk around and go to film, you're going to be walking around with a mask, who knows? Which I think if you put the boots on the ground, then you just got to go full throttle and just do what you got to do while you're out there.
Now, what were you, because we got about a minute, man, is there any one film that you were particularly looking forward to that was going to play at South by?
There's a few films that's out there. One is The 24th, which is directed by Kevin Williamson, who won the Oscar along with Spike Lee for Black Klansman. You also have Really Love, directed by a female director starring Kofi Love from Queen Sugar. There are a couple of films that there are out there, but, we shall see. You never know if they pull it out at the last minute.
All right, Wilson, before we let you get out of here, man, tell people where they can follow you on the social media platforms to read your content.
You can find me on blackfilm.com, which is the same word you use for Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
All right, my brother. You take care of yourself, man. You be safe, and we look forward to talking to you again next week.
All right, we'll talk later. Take care.
All right. Of course, that is my friend and colleague, Wilson Morales at blackfilm.com. He joins us at the top of each show to give us the rundown on what's going on in entertainment. We're going to take a break right now. When we come back, we'll have more of The Big Show here for the 100th anniversary show here at DC Radio at 96.3 HD4. And we'll be right back. Good afternoon and welcome back to Keeping It Real with FilmGordon here at DC Radio 96.3 HD4, which is actually our 100th episode of this show in this studio. Last week was 400 celebration. Total. Today is 401, which is 100 in here. So it's very confusing. Just keep listening. We'll clarify it. Coming up a little later on in the show, we'll have movie reviews of several films. Onward, Spencer Confidential, a bunch of other movies. But right now, in studio with us is the return. This is actually special because you're the absolute first DC Filmmaker of the Month alumnus that we have had in here.
I was actually your first DC Filmmaker of the Month to be recorded, too, when they started making that part of.
There you go. Landmark. Mm-hmm. Keep on breaking glass.
Breaking ground.
Every time.
Yeah.
So we welcome back the team from Love.com, which we will talk extensively about for the next segment. But Charneise Fox is back, who is the filmmaker. Congratulations, young lady.
Thank you very much.
All right, I have these names, and I swear I do not want to mess them up because I hate messing people's names up.
Michelle Lopez.
Right, Michelle
Thank
Lopez.
you, Michelle Lopez.
And
Michelle
Kimberly
Lopez.
Gaines.
Wait a minute, stop.
Yes.
Michelle Lopez and Kimberly Gaines, you are what on this film?
On this film, let me speak for myself, but we're both producers,
Yes,
right?
we are both producers.
You want to speak for yourself?
Yeah, because we produce in different ways. There are different ways of producing. So
Correct.
yes, we're both producers.
All right, so, and I actually want to talk about that because I want people at home to understand and know what goes behind these films that they actually watch. So before we get there, though, first of all, I want to congratulate you guys. Had a chance to finally see the film about a week ago, right? I think
Yeah,
we
that's
talked.
when you call me.
And actually really enjoyed it. Loved the storyline. Thought the casting went well. I had issue, but we won't talk about that. We won't talk about that. I would say overall,
The same issue.
yeah, the same issue. Yeah. But no, we don't have to talk about that. I really enjoyed the film. I thought the fact that the casting and the locations. Matter of fact, a couple of those locations I had been in, so I was like, oh. And I think this is great because we've got LA, we've got New York and Atlanta who have their film sort of kind of scenes. And I think DC needs to have a scene. And I think films like this and other filmmakers in this town who are actually making DC stories, it's you don't have to leave the city in order to make it big. Secondly, DC has a personality. I've been in the city for 30 years. We need films and stories about this town. So, ladies, first and foremost, congratulations to all of you guys.
Thank you.
Now,
so much.
you guys are trending, I still see, on Netflix with this film.
Yeah.
Look, producer Lopez is like, So, Charneise, I'll start with you. What is the success and all the validation that you've received recently from this film? What does it mean to you? I love that look on her face.
I am still processing it
Right.
because, we finished the film 2 years ago and it was a wonderful learning experience. And I think I'm pleasantly surprised, but it's been super interesting because a lot of people that watched us edit and sat in the editing suite with us kept telling me that it was going to end up doing what it's doing, and I was just like, "What are you talking about?" So it's I'm pleasantly surprised. I knew that the story was really, really strong. But I think that when everything came together collectively with the team that we had, that's why we're trending on Netflix, So not only is it the strong storyline and the cinematography was excellent, but also, we've had this underground kind of resurgence from like some of the people that were in the film, just like telling their parents and telling their friends. And I mean, with social media, you just have this like insane connection with people. And so we've just been really fortunate in that too. So, I'm still processing the whole trending aspect and it being like super popular, but I'm 100% thankful. So yeah.
Okay. Kimberly Gaines.
Yes.
So you guys talked and said that you were producing in different ways. So you as a producer serve in what capacity?
I am technically I do the logistics. So when it comes to like locations and all of that and making sure that we have all the permits and stuff we need and all of that stuff, that's my area. I also work directly with Charneise to make sure that she doesn't jump over a ledge with some of the things budgetarily. Like, no, we can't do that.
All right,
Let's
wait a
reel
minute.
that back in.
Wait a minute. There's an opening scene that happens at another radio station.
Yeah.
And as a guy who was at HUR and at Magic, I'm still trying to figure out, like, I couldn't get any love. I couldn't been used in a shot in the film. Watch this. I didn't even need a role. I'm just saying I couldn't have gotten shot doing this. Producer Lopez.
Listen.
Producer Lopez.
Listen.
Right. You got any love?
There was a little bit of jealousy.
Don't be jealous. Because honestly, do you know? Okay, so I'm the outspoken one, but do you know how many people asked us that? But honestly, in creating this, they did, like, not the radio, but just after the fact. And I think that if we had a thought, we used as many people as we could locally. And then with the main cast, the goal with that, when I brought a lot of those people to Charneise, was that we could sell the film, so that we had. So we apologize.
Michelle, clearly, I want you to watch this. Michelle, clearly,
Yes.
I do not need to be on air. I do not.
I've had enough.
Watch
We've
this.
had years.
I am good. No, but
We
seriously.
came in here, got shouted to.
Yeah.
The next one.
Next
The
film?
next one.
Yeah,
The
next
next
one.
one.
Working on
And
something else
actually,
later.
I have planted that seed, so you'll be like, oh, yeah, that's right. Tim did say.
Charneise will, and then she'll be like, Michelle, because I back her out. Like, a lot of stuff.
Now, see,
And then I'll say, well, I liked them. Nah, no, I'm just playing.
See, she's funny. She is funny. Look, I'm teasing Charneise because we got into it. I was like, so you were in here, you didn't tell us that all of this was coming down the pike. I had to hear about this from somebody on my team. They was like, you had her on your show. I was like, oh, yeah, we did. So we couldn't have got nothing. You didn't tell us nothing.
I mean, when at the time when I was on your show in October of 2018, we were still finishing the edits of the film, and then we went on and we world premiered at ABFF.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the film was actually released in November. So what also I think has been interesting to us, and then probably to me individually, just being like, what's happening? As far as just being overwhelmed by it, is that we released the film on iTunes and Amazon Prime and Walmart and Target in November. It wasn't until it hit Netflix that it was like my phone, literally I had 20,000 hits on my phone in a week. And two people look up. I posted my daughter. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so it's been out for a while, but at the time that I was here, we just didn't know. Like, I didn't know
Now,
what was
let's
going to happen.
understand as well, 160 million subscribers on Netflix.
Yeah, no, I'm
So when you go on Netflix, I mean, no disisrespect to any other streaming service.
No, I get it, and I get, I totally
Especially
100%
when you're
get it.
trending on Netflix.
We're gonna keep saying that.
That's the part that is kind of surreal. So let me just say that I knew, like, when I met Charneise and I read, she said, Michelle, I want to do a film, like a movie. And I was like, okay, we're going to do that. I said we're going to do it. I just didn't know how. But then it sort of aligned, and a friend of mine wanted a writer-director, and at that time, I was helping to manage her life. Because she has a busy one, like she does 10,000 things. And so I just put it all together, so we were able, in a short, to get the film paid for. So what I knew was that Charneise is a great writer. Mm-hmm. What I knew was the storyline was awesome. What I was sort of excited and surprised and like, girl, what? That she wrote this a dozen years ago, and it seems like it's right now for today. So for me, it was like God aligning it all so that I could help get this paid for, and so that she could tell the story that she had already written. So it's like her path and us meeting and her telling me that and me going, okay, Charneise, okay, boom, Charneise, I got it, like was supposed to happen so that she could tell the story. You understand what I'm saying?
I do. So we're in the studio right now with the director of Love.com, Charneise Fox, as well as producers Michelle Lopez.
Yes,
Lopez.
I'm sorry, my God.
Yes,
I'm always afraid. Look, and Kimberly
Don't worry
Gaines.
about it.
No. I'm not afraid for that reason, but I'm saying you never want people to you never want your name.
They misspell it all the time, though. I have one L and they put two.
It's not my thing. It's not my thing. Yeah. So, but first of all, so I want to talk a little bit about my opening statement when I talked about trying to build a film community here in DC. Charneise and I had a conversation off this show, and we were talking about that because there are other filmmakers that we've had who have similar aspirations to want to build something here in town. I think the time is right for it. Actually, I mean, the city is changing in some ways that I don't necessarily love. But
and they talk about that in the film too.
Yeah,
we talk about that. That's the
right.
theme of the film.
Yeah.
The city is changing, and I think that the time has come that we've got to start telling DC stories. And I don't mean the DC stories that we always see when it's about stuff that happens on the mall and this government. I'm talking about the stories like yours, which are neighborhood stories, stories about the people, second, third generation Washingtonians. Ladies, go ahead, jump in at any point.
I think, as a writer, I think that oftentimes a lot of writers that are able to really like tell great stories, write what they know. So you kind of start there, right? So for me, I live here, so there was no, and I think it's super interesting because oftentimes DC is political or it's Scandal, which I guess is political, and then they shoot it in New York or LA, and it's like, you're going to green screen the monument when it's just like right there.
Right there.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it just, and there's, DC has this underbelly of culture that a lot of people don't understand because we're also, parallel to the political structure of the world in like huge ways. And so I think, it's just half the people I know, we don't even go on the mall. Like we don't even go to the monument. Like we avoid tourists at all costs. Yeah. And there's still so much to do in this city. Right. And so for me, Atlanta's cool, New York is cool, LA is cool, but DC is just as amazing. And you also have the White House and the monuments if you want to shoot those things too. So
right, and I guess I'm giving a plug because we're here at the DC Film Office. I think that there's a staff here that's very accommodating to work with filmmakers as well. So for you producers, this actually is really good news for you guys when you're trying to set projects up in town. Would that be correct?
Oh, absolutely. Let's be clear that DC Film Office was also one of our sponsors and financially were helpful for Love.com. Like, let's be clear, Angie Gates 100% was super helpful with this project, but also building up to this project. I ran the High School 48 before, so I worked with Mark Rupert, and we produced 13 films with kids all over the city. It was Angie and Herbie that helped me get the money from Office of Planning, and it was, I think, like almost $70,000 to help fund that particular program. So, I mean, Love.com, but it's not the relationships that we built over the years is what allowed us to also then be able to come back and shoot in DC. It's not like we just woke up and said, we're going to make a movie. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, that's not... That definitely is. Yeah, that's not how it happened.
I think the other part of it is we definitely need to see our folks east of the river. Because I'm an East of the River resident. I'm a Ward 7 resident. I will plug East of the River all day long. Yes,
my house was East of the River, so look, I'm with you. I lived on East of the River as well.
I mean, it is important, And I think it's really important. I think that helps the trending aspect is because we see ourselves in this film. Right. We see landmarks in this film. Oh, that's over there by the big chair.
The big chair.
I think it's important for us to see ourselves in film.
So I want to talk to the non-East of the River person.
Wait a minute.
Michelle, what's up? Everybody, look. Everybody was like, East of the River. Michelle was like,
no, but listen. That's not true.
I mean, if you were Northwest, Uptown.
No, not at all. Listen, I was okay, so he's so silly. I was born in D.C. My mother... and my entire side of my mother's family is from Berry Farms. Everyone is still here in DC. So I moved out from city life and went to Fairfax, went to Virginia when I was like 12, right? My father was Secret Service. I spent my life meeting presidents and coming back and forth. So my roots, being born here and the first time that I fell in love with go-go, my aunt snuck me out on the blacktop in Berry Farms and Chuck was playing. So I love DC. Now, during the course of my life and having a couple of different careers, but ultimately going into entertainment and doing celebrities and image and branding and stuff, it's taken me away from the city, but mess with me and you'll see I'm a city girl. Very clear that my mama from Berry Farms.
Watch this. I think it's become quite clear just in the last 15 minutes.
If anybody is looking at the video of this, they can...
I'm looking at Michelle like, thank you. Nice save. I love how she put some Berry Farms in there.
Wait, you gotta mess with my girls and you'll understand. She still got Berry Farms in her.
I moved in the city in 1985. And I remember I was in the Marine Corps when I first got here. And I got here and felt the rhythm of the city within the first 4 or 5 years. I was like, I am never leaving. I've never found another place.
That's not Charneise accent.
Yeah, I've traveled extensively around, and I thought for a hot second I would move to Los Angeles, and then I went out there and saw that traffic and was like, no, I'm good.
That's my exact same story. I lived in LA in 2006 and was like, no, thank you. But I also I wasn't born here, but I went to elementary school here. Right. My mom was always here my whole life, so every weekend I I was here. Like this is, home. And I lived on 5th and MLK. I done lived in every quadrant of the city, like straight up, because, this is part of my life. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It is absolutely my favorite place on the planet. Like,
at least for all of us in here, except for one person who decides to live.
Hold on. Don't
shots fired.
Me,
pow, pow.
I want to go and not be stuck in traffic.
I'm not mad at you. These are just jokes, Charles. You're like a third generation?
Third generation.
That's what's up.
DC resident.
That's what I was gonna say. What is the proud moment though is because again, my whole family on my mother's side is still everyone is in DC. The proud moment is when they look at the movie and they watched it over and over again, just growing up and seeing all the stuff in DC of what they knew, even though it's changing to be. They're very proud of the city. So when my mother calls me and was like, "Shell, it's in DC," and then my aunt called me and said, "Girl, you remember the go-go?" But that's over Raheem's, but it's still like exciting for them. Sorry, y'all.
Producer got to produce.
Sorry, y'all. Yeah.
So for you ladies, and I'll start with you, Charneise, as well. There's so many rich stories to be told. What are you working on now? Could you at least give us a piece of hint? Just a hint.
Keep it real. Keep it real, because we really want to know.
A title. Just give me a piece of hint.
They looking at me like,
really?
Hold on now.
Why is it that?
I'm just saying, she can release a little bit, just a little bit.
All I want is a smidge. Can you give us a smidge of a storyline?
I also know Charneise.
There's a couple of
Don't
things.
say how much.
She'd be like,
there's a couple of
like
things.
Michelle.
There's a couple of things.
Hold on a second. Let it.
I am producing a film with Marcus Richardson, who I've worked with in the past.
Right.
He wrote this great script called A Love Song. So we are currently working collectively to do the logistical side of the film and then the financing side. And then I'm just going to, stand on the side and be like,
that was good because I love while you were talking. Both of them were looking at you like this.
They had a death stare on you, like, you better, girl.
But
don't go
what
too
I
far.
can talk about outside of A Love Song, because we are in the process of getting cast members and things like that, but we just can't announce those things yet. I can talk about Children's Story, which is a script that I've been writing for a couple of years, and I am pretty much done. So hopefully once we finish A Love Song, I'll be able to transition away from this idea of me being a comedic rom-com person, because for me, I wrote the script trying to appeal to an audience that would actually watch something like Love.com, but I could make a joke and talk about gentrification. So if you know my body of work, that's kind of, it's that I'm not in the vacuum writing love rom-coms. It's not what I want to do. Not that there's anything wrong with it,
see my face,
but it's not my thing.
It's my favorite.
So wait a minute, I got about 2 minutes left. I just want to talk a little bit about your lead actress. Her name is Brave Williams.
Yeah, she's great.
So by virtue that you wrote this, what was her obsession with making sure that dude had put his, what was it called? He had gone to
on Love.com and done his...
Yeah, what was it?
Put
She
his
was
profile,
like,
his profile.
that's what I'm looking at her going like, what was the obsession? Like,
it's a couple of things, right? So here's the thing. That script was by the time we produced it, we got to our 10th version. Version 1 of the script, they were actually engaged. And she met his ex-fiance, and his ex-fiance was like suited up and Gucci down and like all the things. And she felt super uncomfortable. So then she came up with this idea about them matching, right? 12 editions later, it became what it is. But the whole point was, she met someone who's completely different than her. And then, you go online and generally speaking, you answer these questions and you find your match. And so she was obsessed with that because the person that she was with she thought was perfect for her, and it didn't work out. So she was like, I got to find another way. So that was the obsession.
Love.com. Check it out this weekend. Now, we've been talking all show long about, you don't want to be outside. You got to be safe. Stay in the house.
Oh,
Love.com.
Yeah, Love.com.
Netflix and chill.
You see what I did there?
Love.com. Yeah, that's the way to go.
I actually even put my sexy voice. Love.com.
Okay,
Jesus.
This is your audition tape right now?
Yeah.
No, I'm good. This is what I do.
For the next film, Charneise.
You know what?
Love in there too. And they got a Afro Latina in there, and that looked like me.
Yeah.
So what?
You know, this is the one time, Charneise, that I'm surprised that producer did not figure out a way to get the talented producer Lopez on camera.
That's
She
what
would work
everybody
on
has.
camera.
Charneise trying. We'll figure it out.
I'm working on it because that allows me to stay behind the scenes and just be like, what's happening?
Who's the casting director? That's all I want to know.
Well, why? I did the Thea Washington did the main.
She brokered the deals for the main characters,
Okay,
and then Thea
all right.
Washington managed the cast.
She did a wonderful
yeah.
job. Wonderful
But
job.
Thea did.
No, that's what I said. She did.
Yeah,
She did.
I used my relationships for our main cast,
Yeah.
and Thea did the rest of it.
Yeah.
All right.
Gracias.
I want to thank you, ladies, for coming
about to
in.
cry?
No, we have exceeded our time. My producer, who's got to cut this, is gonna cry. But Charneise Fox,
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Kimberly Gaines.
Gaines, thank you kindly.
man, I'm sorry, it's been a long
Thanks.
week.
I
know.
What's this?
I know you remember my.
Michelle Lopez, Kimberly Gaines, and I want to thank all you guys coming in. And remember, everybody at home, love.com is trending.
So
Check
help
out
us
and
stay
find out
trending.
why.
You
Yes.
gotta watch it.
And
Like my
how
mama.
can people get more information about this film? Like social media, can they follow
Instagram,
you?
we're at love.com, the movie. That's the best way to get in touch
And
with us
dot is
right
DOT.
now.
I don't know.
DOT.
Sometimes
Oh, yeah, a lot of
put
people
dot,
don't-
but it's love and then
Dot.
DOT.
The
Because
word
the
you
play
understand.
is-
You would understand why
Y'all
they would
get
put
that,
the
right?
dot in there.
Yeah.
You get the love.com because it's love DC.
Right, DC.
Most people don't get that. It's
Right,
love.com
right.
because it's love DC.
DC.
Get it?
I did not.
Did not get that.
Wow. Bomb. There's layers to this.
We gotta run.
You need to put that on. Oh, I'm on air. Oh.
Yes. Yeah, don't do that. Get that idea.
Do Simone.
Ladies, let me go. We have got to run right now. I want to thank
right.
all
Thank
of the
you so
talented,
Bye, y'all.
the creative team behind the film for joining us. Love.com is on Netflix right now. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we will have our interview with M'Baku. What's the brother's
Winston
name?
Duke.
Winston Duke. Thank you. I told you the name thing is just messing me up this afternoon. You guys keep it where you got it. You're listening to The Big Show, Keeping It Real with FilmGordon, and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back to Keeping It Real with FilmGordon. Special thanks to our guest in the last segment, the producing team behind Love.com. As I said, going out to the last break, it is trending on Netflix. But right now, up next, our next guest, you've seen him in films like Black Panther and Us. Winston Duke, latest film is he's co-starring opposite Mark Wahlberg in the Netflix, I guess we would call it a prequel to Spencer for Hire. It is Spencer Confidential. And he sat down with Wilson Morales, our show correspondent, and here is their conversation.
This is Wilson Morales talking to Winston Duke, who's got a new film, Spencer Confidential. You're playing Hawk. This is part of a book that most people are familiar with, especially the TV series. What was the attraction to doing this?
The attraction was really collaborating with Mark Wahlberg and Peter Berg. So I got a personal phone call from Peter Berg one day. Was one of the last days I was shooting on Us. And, he just told me he loved my work and wanted to work with me, and they had a project that they were building with Netflix, and it was kind of retelling of this classic story, and they wanted me to check it out. So I read the script, and Mark Wahlberg then called me a couple days after, and same thing, and it meant a lot that I was getting personal phone calls from these guys, and I trust their ability to make something really cool and great, and I wanted a bit of a departure from the deep, heavy world of Jordan Peele.
All right, and one more time, I want to thank both Winston Duke and Wilson Morales for that conversation. We're going to take a break right now on this special 100th edition of The Big Show here at DC Radio. And when we come back on the other side, it's time to talk movies. It's my favorite segment of the show. You guys keep it where you got it. You're listening to The Big Show, Keeping It Real with FilmGordon, and we'll be right back. All right, and welcome back to the 100th episode of Keeping It Real with FilmGordon here at DC Radio for 100 episodes straight. All this up in here. Charles Kirkland and I have been knocking show after show out. Thank you guys first and foremost. But this week's reviews, which is why we're here, is brought to you by thefilmgordon.com, where every week we ask you to experience film through the eyes of a true film addict. Read all of our film content at thefilmgordon.com. Now, as I said this week, there are 4 films. We're going to review 2 here, 2 on overtime. But before we begin, cue the music. All right, our first film this week is set in a fantastical world where the populace once had magic. 2 teenage elf brothers, Ian and Barley Lightfoot, receive a wizard staff as a prearranged gift from their father, who died before Ian was born. And when Barkley was too young to remember him, that story is called Onward. It stars Tom Holland, Chris Pratt, 2 members of Marvel's Cinematic Universe. Just think Spider-Man and Star-Lord. Also making up the supporting cast from Seinfeld, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and Octavia Spencer. This film is directed by Dan Scanlon and produced by Corey Ray from a screenplay written by Scanlon, Jason Headley, and Keith Bunnan. Here is a clip from Onward. All right. This is a film from what I would call one of the most reliable studios in all of Hollywood for quality. And of course, I'm talking about Pixar. Pixar also being bought by Disney some years back. So you have a confluence of taking probably the top animated studio in all of Hollywood and combining them with a studio that's probably the best storytelling studio, which is hence why Pixar has been spanking booty at the box office for 2 decades now. And this latest story, even though when you first come to it, the animation looks a little different than what you would expect when you watch a Toy Story or Cars or some of the other films, Up and some of those other ones, WALL-E. It's a different set of animation, but the storytelling is on point. And as you heard me read in the description, the main character it's his 18th birthday. He's wearing his father's sweatshirt. He misses his father and he yearns for a relationship with him. And through magic, they have found a way to bring the father back, but not exactly in the way that they intend, right? Half his body's missing, and his goofball brother, who is being very supportive of him, is making one mistake after the other. And you come to find out, when the character finds out, that what he's looking for has been there all along. And when it hits you in that movie theater, as the woman who sat next to me and her kid boo-hooed like babies, you will too. Onward is an amazing film, well told, again, by Pixar. Another home run for these guys. They just keep churning out hit after hit after hit. Onward, really special film. I'm giving this movie a B+, man. I liked Onward a whole lot. And, for me, man, I like the sentimental stories that talk about family and that journey. So B+ for Onward. Great, great job from them. Our next movie that we want to talk about today is a movie that literally just dropped on Netflix earlier this week. And if you haven't had a chance to check it out, it is simply called Spencer Confidential. And it looks at a story of a guy who is attempting to unravel a twisted murder conspiracy where a former police detective returns to Boston's criminal underworld. Now, this mystery comedy thriller is directed by Peter Berg with a screenplay by Sean O'Keefe and Brian Heglin, and it is loosely based on the novel Wonderland by Ace Atkins and used the names of characters created by Robert B. Parker. Now, for a lot of people, you're asking, what am I talking about? There was a hit show that was on years. I think it was CBS it was ABC, called Spencer for Hire with Robert Ulrich and Avery Brooks as Hawk in the show. And in this film, of course, we now have Mark Wahlberg taking on the Spencer character. Winston Duke, who we heard earlier on the show, who was M'Baku in Black Panther, is now Hawk. And it also co-stars Alan Arkin Ilza Schlesinger, Bokeem Woodbine, Mark Marone, and Austin Post. And it is the 5th collaboration between Wahlberg and Berg after Lone Survivor, Deepwater Horizon, Patriots Day, and Mile 22. And here's a clip from Spencer Confidential. All right, going into this film, I was trying to figure out exactly what would be the angle of how they would attack this story. And basically, it looks like they're creating the prequel to the Spencer story, right? Spencer was a police detective. He got into a tiff with what he considered his superior, who was a dirty cop. He came over, beat him down, had to serve 5 years in prison. And as he's coming out of prison, said story begins where, you know, a character that they never explain who he is, but I guess it's a mentor of his, played by Alan Arkin, has now put him in a house with a brooding, silent giant, as they call Hawk, played by Winston Duke. And he is trying to unravel the mystery of the death of the man who he beat down and put in jail. And it takes him into this world of him being a private investigator. I thought this movie was hugely entertaining. I mean, I think the fact that I was very much familiar with the show and understood the characters and their motivations. Boston almost serves as a character on its own. So I thought Peter Berg and Mark Wahlberg clearly took a lot of pains and time to sort of work through the mythology of who Spencer is and the relationship of Hawk, who's kind of like his silent protector, which I think what's interesting about this and how they've done the film versus the show, in the show, Robert Ulrich was a guy who was kind of like a lot taller than Wahlberg and a little smoother, and his character wasn't played like grimy. But the Avery Brooks piece on the side also was always of interest to me because Brooks is kind of like there and he's kind of imposing, but he's not like a really big guy, but you just know he like, you don't really want to mess with Hawk, right? Now, in the movie, the way they do it is Spencer is a lot grittier, much like Mannix, if you're old enough to remember Mannix, how Mannix got beat down every show. Spencer takes a major butt beating all film long, but then the giant comes in, who's not even brooding and imposing. He just comes in and scares the bejesus out of people because Winston Duke in real life is like 6'5". He's huge. And you see it on screen of how he handles some of these interactions. Plus, they made Hawk a lot more sensitive. You watch the movie, you'll see what I'm talking about. But as I said, I thought it was hugely entertaining. I would give Spencer Confidential a B. I thought it was really solid. They put out so much content. This one would be worth your time. I suggest you check it out. And by the way, Alan Arkin was hysterical in here, who won an Oscar years ago for Little Miss Sunshine. He's really a ray of light in this film as well. That's all I got for this version of the show. Now, we got 2 more reviews, but that you'll have to get the app and check out Overtime, and you can go and hear those other 2 reviews. But that's all I got for this show here. And on behalf of our producers, Shane Lewis and Charles Kirkland, man, that brother, man, he's everything, man. Charles Kirkland is the guy. I am Tim Gordon, and this 100th celebration of this episode, which marks another historical moment. Next week, we'll be back to doing regular shows, man. I've been celebratory the last 2 weeks. You guys keep it where you got it. Enjoy your weekend. Be safe out there. Wash your hands. And we'll be back next week. You guys take care.
In DC, for DC, DC Radio, 96.3 HD4, and DCRadio.gov.